What is up, YouTube? McIntyre here. Today I wanted to bring you guys a hopefully quick video breaking down Braxis Holdout. I used to have a video series I called Meta Mondays, and every Monday I would upload a new map and discuss the map and discuss comps and whatnot and break down the map's fundamentals. Today I want to basically revitalize that and bring it back, but be a bit quicker about breaking the map down. So today I wanted to talk about Braxis, and then I wanted to talk about picks that are strong on Braxis. I think that this really comes from my tier list, and a lot of the time when I talk about my tier list, I talk about, oh yeah, this pick is good, but it's not always good. And that's where these sort of videos should come in to help basically with that. So today we're going to talk about Braxis Holdout. We're going to talk about just some basic fundamentals of the map, and then picks that we want to take to kind of pair with those fundamentals. I will also say that, you know, although I am a pro player, this is probably my least favorite map. So if I'm completely lost, then you know, I apologize for that, but I will say that I do have a basic understanding of the map, and I'm gonna kind of talk about that today. So the first thing about Braxis is that it is a 2-lane map, which means that there are a few ways to handle the lanes. Just like on Battlefield of Eternity, you can set up a 1-4, or you can set up a 3-1-1, which is the 3 bottom lane, 1 roamer, 1 top laner. It is important that you have solo, you have someone soaking each lane at basically all times in the game. And on Braxis in particular, this is a map where the objective just might not ever fire off. Obviously that's a very, you know, extreme measure, but you know, it's a map where if one team controls the bottom and one team controls the top, then they'll never, you know, the Zerg waves will never spawn, right? So essentially you have to figure out during your draft how to beat that system, right? If you can't control bottom, then you have to make sure you control top. And if you can't control top and bottom, then you've probably lost the map. So that's Braxis in a nutshell. How do we break down and control shrines? So there's a few ways. The first wave would be wave clearing. A lot of the time on this map, you see wave clear become important. And the reason for that is that if you clear the enemy's wave before they clear your wave, then you control this area of the map, right? Which are the shrine areas. And if you push the wave into the other team, that also creates space for you to get to the shrine before they do, and potentially causes them to lose soak. This is more important in the top lane, obviously, because there's only usually 1-in-1. So if you do clear the lane before your opponent, then you can control that shrine, as well as the globe that spawns on the top and bottom of the map, right? So essentially wave clear becomes very important on this map, right? Getting waves cleared out fast. And once you've cleared the wave, then what comes into play is shrine control. And shrine control is, you know, heroes that can just kind of stand there and say, you're not gonna get me off of this shrine. And you know, that's I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that later, about heroes that are good at doing that, but it's something that is important to have, right? An example would be top lane, and the reason that we'll use Rexxar, because it's always argued, and you know, I don't disagree, it's not a bad hero on this map. I just think that he's a bad hero in the meta. Rexxar is really strong because getting Misha off of the shrine is very difficult. You have to have multiple people show up, and then even then, you know, you've probably wasted so much time trying to kill her that Rexxar's pushed the wave or whatever. But that is a good example of a shrine controller, right? You just have Misha sit on the point, and in order to stop that, you have to kill Rexxar. And if Rexxar is standing, let's say here by his wall, and he has Misha on the point, it's going to be a hard time. It's going to be a mess. So how do you break that, right? And that is where these bad boys come into play, the 4 camps on the map. The easiest camp, which I usually call easy camp, is the flamethrower camp. 2 flamethrower guys. These guys wave clear. They have this AoE cleave sort of thing going on. and they have a ton of health. I think that's the most important part about the flamethrowers. I think they're called fire bats. I don't know. I'm just going to call them the easy camp. Essentially, they have a ton of health, and what they do for you is they eat up ammunition on the towers. So once the enemy's towers are down, then you can kill the wall. And when walls fall in Heroes of the Storm, one thing that a lot of people misinterpret about this is, yes, you want to get towers, but when the walls actually fall, that target, that player becomes a target, I guess I should say. You're able to kill that person without them running to their towers. Obviously, if you get the 2 towers down, it's easy too, right, if they don't get through the door. But if you kill the door and the towers, it's nearly impossible. And that player, like I explained with the Rexar, right? Usually Rexar stands somewhere here, not near his wall, and has Misha stand on the point. But if you kill the gate and the 2 towers, then he can get ganked from behind. He can get ganked from up top. He's a lot more exposed to getting killed. So that's what this camp does. And then you have your hard camps. These guys just push like no other. They're really hard to kill. They'll kill like heroes. They have the ability to just kill heroes, and they provide vision. So there was one game where I was playing Nova and I walked past one. I forgot that the little floaty guy has vision, and I got killed because of it. So that's just a little tip. Yeah, so they do the exact same thing, right? And that's why, for me personally, it's funny that we always prioritize bottom lane, because left side, in my opinion, on this map has almost like a stronger bottom lane because of this camp. The other thing that this camp does is there's this brush. This brush here is very scary to walk through for this team, and the same goes for this team, right? So if for whatever reason the team on the right does push the left side team off and they have to back, a lot of the time people try to cut through here towards the objective, and the right team can hold this brush. This is kind of important, and again, it's always confusing for me with Braxis why the left side always, it's not a symmetrical map, right? Unlike a map like Shire where all lanes are the same. This map is a lot like Cursed Hollow, where one side actually has somewhat of an advantage or disadvantage over the other side. So going a little more into detail now, we're going to talk about the last sort of thing as we just talked about backing, and that is going to be sustain. And sustain is important on this map because, again, the less that you have to back, the longer that you can push, the longer that you can stall, and the longer that you can outlast the enemy team. And, the globe control comes into play here, but, just having heroes that can sustain without using mana a lot of the times are really good. So an example of that would be Ariel. Ariel doesn't require mana, only requires hope. And, having that ability to sustain your team without using mana can be very valuable. Obviously, the other team then has to respond to the Ariel, and they can, right? But if you do not respond to the Ariel on this map, then you're going to have a hard time. So again, let's so now that we've wrapped up, we have Waveclear, we have Shrine Control, and we have Sustain. Let's wrap up and talk about just a couple strategies. So with the 1-4 strategy, a lot of the time you have 2 types of 4-mans. The 1-4-man being the kill 4-man, and that's usually ETC mouth sort of compositions, right? You're looking to kill and find a pick on the other team. Usually more aggressive. That's where we'll see things like Jaina and sort of stuff like that. And you have the kind of aggressive poke sustain comp. That's the opposite side of this. And those are the Vala Ariels, Chromies, Lunaras, Guldans, where they're just essentially, focus Waveclear, focus poking the enemy team, and slowly grind the other team towards their towers, right? Both comps, have their weaknesses. The sustain comp would be they have a fragile back line. The pick comp would be that they have a fragile front line. But that's usually what we have going on in the bottom lane. And then we have, the other kind of 3-1-1 strategy I talked about, where you have, one roamer. It can be any hero that basically has a stun or can cause a kill to happen. An example would be, and this is maybe a bad one, but Valeera. It's an extreme example. Essentially, Valeera roaming the map causes the top laner for the enemy team to play back, right? They have to play scared. They have to respect Valeera. As long as Valeera is not showing, they can't win that top shrine, right? Vice that, and in which case, you know, bottom lane obviously has to play up. They have to play like Valeera is always there, and they need to pressure the bottom lane. So, you know, that's a second strategy to the map. And then the third strategy, which is probably my favorite because I personally hate the map and I just wanted to get over it as fast as possible. That is the chicken strategy, I call it. And that's where both teams just draft heavy siege. One team goes bottom, the other team goes top, and you guys push until somebody cores. And for me, I think that's the most fun way to play this map because honestly, standing around till level 10 and then somebody winning an objective, I don't know. It hasn't been the most fun mechanic as far as what I like to do, where I like more Dragon Shire, Tomb of the Spider Queen, where there's a lot of chaos, there's fighting, there's rotating, you know, things are happening. You're not just throwing stuff at each other until somebody right clicks incorrectly. Instead, you're out positioning and out rotating. And in this map, there is that, and you know, I don't want to argue that there isn't, but a lot of times it does feel like you're, you know, wet noodling each other until you either have ultimates or, you know, somebody does a camp and pushes somewhere else, or somebody right clicks incorrectly and gets picked. So now that we've discussed all of this and my kind of wrap up for the video, I'm not going to do a full out blown out tier list for this video, but I will show you some examples and my sick editing skills here. As you can see, I just have a little document where I've written down some heroes talking about the 3 points that we talked about. We have our wave clearers. So again, we have Gul'dan, Sylvanas, Proteus, Chromie. These are all heroes that essentially, you know, as long as they're standing near the wall, they shouldn't be threatened, right? They always can get away. You know, the lanes are so short that, just like Rexxar, the Rexxar example, they should never really get killed, and they should always be able to shut down the push, right? These are all good heroes that also handle Zerg waves fairly well, so that's another reason that they're on this list. Chromie being an exception, I think, to that, but she is very good at poking people off of the objective, and you know, her W does do really well on waves, just of normal minions. So our next point is going to be the point holders, and we talked about this, the objective holders. These are all very tanky heroes. They can posture well. They punish the other team if they overextend. And we have Murden, Joanna, Arthas, Zarya, and then I have a dash there for an exception for Rexxar. I'm not a huge believer of him, but I do think that this is a map for him because of point holders. So what do these heroes do exactly, right? We have Murden, who has his jump away in case he gets in trouble. He can also jump in to find picks, right? Coming back really quick to the map. You know, if you're standing here and let's say the enemy team's Gul'dan comes up around to poke at the objective, Murden can jump right on top of him and pinch him from getting back to the wall, right? So a really powerful skill that he has that not a lot of tanks have. He also has obviously his passive third wind that's just absurd. He can eat a bunch of damage, third wind, and everything's okay. Joanna is the next hero, very tanky. She has very good wave clear. She can take the talent that every time she hits a minion with her W, you know, she decreases the cooldown. This is good against Zerg waves, is good against wave clearing. She has her passive. So if she does get in trouble on the point, she can passive and walk out. Just a hard hero to kill, right? She can just stand on the point too. In the case of, let's say, you control both shrines and you need to control the shrine for 5 more seconds to complete the 100%, right? She can just say, all right, I'm just going to hold this and hopefully I can walk out of here. The next one would be Arthas. Arthas is, you know, maybe the weaker of the two before him, but still the same idea. He just kind of holds himself there. Once he hits army, he's very hard to kill, right? Army of the Dead is going to generate a lot of health for him. He's going to be able to find roots potentially. He can sustain through Death Coil. He's just got a healthy health pool, and Icebound Fortitude even. Yeah, he's just a really hard hero to kill, and when he steps to the point, you're gonna have to deal with him, right? And the last one that we bring up is Zarya, and this is a reason why Zarya, this is one of her best maps, is just pressuring a Zarya that's standing still on something is not something you really want to be doing, especially if she has full energy. And on this map in particular, being able to just stand on the point and shoot at whoever comes on is very threatening, right? She also does like a lot of other things. Her Expulsion Zone is really powerful around the objective. She can clog up a lot of the escape routes and rotations. So she has a really good level 10 plus, and she can generate basically full energy for the entirety of the game because the towers are so close to where the lane's at, right? And then we have Rexar, we talked about it before. Misha, just putting the bear on the point. Another one for this list, when we look at the top lane, is Sonya. Sonya is one where, if the other player tries to come and duel you as Sonya, a lot of the time she's going to just win that, just slamming and hitting her spear. So she's another exceptional point holder on this map, being able to whirlwind and sustain herself. And then now we talk about some supports here, right? The sustainy supports. My personal favorite supports on the map. We have Malfurion, obviously being the king of support still at the moment. Ariel, really good with a lot of these Waveclear heroes up at the top right. They generate lots of energy. And then Medic being the last one. Medic is a good pair with heroes like Zul'jin, with Hammer if you want to go that route and just kind of, posture, sustain, and poke out the other team kind of through a siege sort of position. But that is going to be it for Braxis. So this is a really quick breakdown. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, the map isn't as bad as I make it out to seem. I just personally, my personal opinion, not a huge fan of it. We obviously have some, the other spicy thing is the boss in the middle, and a lot of pro games will come down to one team threatening the boss, and what this essentially does is break that sort of poof leaning at each other scenario, right? If you force a boss, then the other team has to fight you, and it's a good way to break that, right? If your team can safely do the boss without the losing too much health or dying, it's not a bad last ditch effort, because the other team will have to come into you and try to force the fight, and when they do, you finally have a chance to fight. Quick last tips. A lot of the time on this map, you find a lot of your picks on rotations. So, I said this map's not rotational based. It isn't until it becomes, and that's when buildings start falling. So when teams lose forts, they have to, come outside of their base. And a lot of the time they come into this open space area, and that's where, in the later game, that's where you want to catch them on rotation. So as a tank player or even a melee player, a lot of the time, holding brushes like this, or even, somewhere even deeper into the rotation like this brush here, you can wait for, this is one of my favorite ones. You can wait for, people to start this camp, or I like this one because you can see people come out of their base and walk to, soak out maybe XP here, and then you collapse in on them, right? You want to pinch the other team once their forts are down from getting experience, and you can do that by holding rotations within this area. So while the map does feel very standoffish, it kind of opens up, like all maps in Heroes of the Storm, when forts start to fall. The other team's less protected, they have to fall further into their base, and then that's when you can aggressively rotate, aggressively find picks, and really try to control the flow of the map with your tanks and your melee players. But that is my last tip of this map, and that's going to be it for this video. So if you guys enjoyed this quick little nugget of information, make sure to hit that like button below and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I am working diligently nowadays to get to that 10,000 sub mark on YouTube. I'm incredibly close. I think I'm at about 9,000 now. So if you guys wouldn't mind hitting that sub button, I would greatly appreciate it. As well, you can check out my Twitch and Twitter. Those are located in my description below, and my tier list, which has been recently updated. I'll try to keep that updated about every month. But that's going to be it for today's video, guys. So thank you all so much for your support. And until next time, I'll see you then.